Hey everybody, Jason Burmis here, and I've been meaning to do a video on the cargo ship that was found with 20 tons of La Coca Nostra. Okay? Now, I've hesitated because I really wanted to see where this was going, what the information was going to be, other than it was the largest bust of its kind ever, with it being worth over $1 billion. So let's take you back to the bust that happened at the end of June, almost a month ago. This goes down. All right, and there is some relative news coming up, by the way. So the record amount of cocaine seized by the U.S. Customs in Philadelphia last week totaled nearly 20 tons. The agency said on Wednesday it was worth more than $1 billion. $1 billion. Okay, that's 15,582 kilograms. Now I'm going to stop right there. So if you see, it says four more crew members arrested in the arrest, and that was right afterwards, right? They got 2 and then 4, and so 6 people were arrested, but they only had 5 kilos of cocaine. Now these are my thoughts on the arrests initially, okay, because we're going to continue down here. We're going to show you some of the real connections, and then we're going to show you how this is how it works. The banks are totally involved in high-level drug dealing with intelligence agencies. That's how the networks operate, and the cartels work with them. And then if they like to go on their own, or they get outside of the bargain, or somebody can cut a better deal, they get cut out like El Chapo. That's what happens, okay? That's the reality. JP Morgan is just, the next BCCI, and it's been going on for a very, very long time. We'll talk about BCCI coming up. But remember, so now we have 6 crew members. What's really weird is they're saying that they had 5 kilos of coke. Okay, so were they guards? Because they certainly weren't smuggling all this. Were they mercs for hire? Did they work something out? Or are they patsies to try to obfuscate what really happened? Because again, they can't... They can't underplay how big this is. In the 230-year history, this is the largest cocaine seizure. Do you understand that, okay? So now, guess what? It has ties to Italian billionaires. Is that right? And by the way, the ship itself, not just the cargo unit, the MSC, also partially, I think it was the Gaagayne. Yeah, I can't believe I just stuttered like that. That would be terrible. Let's see. But this is the couple right here, Gianluigi and Raffaella Aponte. They're worth an estimated $11.1 billion. Well, again, we have more to that story. Let's go right here because we have to go to the incognito window. And it is the, let's see, where is it? The gain? Yeah, GaYane. Here it is right here. And JP Morgan, Wall Street Journal is reporting this. By the way, it's gone. It's en route to the Netherlands. No problem. Oh, you're going to work with us? Do you see what's going on here? It looks like they're going to patsy out these 5 or 6 people, maybe have a few other people involved, use it for propaganda, blame someone else, and try to distance themselves from JP Morgan, the bank itself, the Italian billionaires. Because you can't have elitists that are, of European descent or, basically not South American, because that's what fits the narrative. If they're not South American, well, then we can't sell it to the people because they're evil. And then we can, that's the one thing I'll say about border security. Okay, if we put the wall up, do you think the CIA is just going to stop dealing the cocaine? And if you have any doubt that that is how it works, first of all, the entire docket is sealed. Daniel Hopsicker's done great work on this for a very long time. In fact, the Iran-Contra scandal, Barry and the boys is some of his work. Also done some really great 9/11 work. I don't agree with everything the man has to say, but if you look at this case here, you'll see that each part is restricted and sealed, but the docket you can see. Okay, these are heavily redacted cartel cases. Why? Because they don't want to out their agents on the inside. You get it? And I'm not saying it's the whole CIA. I'm not saying it's the whole Drug Enforcement Agency. No, it's compartmentalized groups that work with black operations. And Pablo Escobar's son, a couple years back now, came out and explained how this worked. Okay, so I want to read this quote right here because it's really telling. It's clear that the DEA and the CIA have a great deal to do with this. Let's repeat that. It's clear that the DEA and the CIA have a great deal to do with this. Although I do not know if it's about the organizations in general or about individual agents, rogue networks. I do not want to generalize and say that the agencies were totally corrupt, but there were sectors whose agents cooperated with him at one time as a matter of convenience. So, again, no one really wants to talk about that Pablo Escobar worked with the CIA, especially in this country, but that's the reality. And that same network, we've played parts of this film before, but we're just going to play the BCCI scandal part. Now, BCCI was smuggling or laundering money for all sorts of global operations, including Iran-Contra and the Bin Laden network, the Mujahideen, Bin Laden, Brzezinski network. So let's just kick it off.
Unbelievably, this same network would even be linked to the BCCI banking scandal by journalist Danny Casolaro.
Casolaro was probing a conspiracy he called the Octopus, which involved the Iranian hostage crisis, the Iran-Contra affair, with, believe it or not, all funds channeled through BCCI, the international bank charged with everything from money laundering to fraud.
BCCI, it's a shadowy international bank linked to terrorists, drug runners, and dictators.
Little was known about BCCI until 6 of its top officers were arrested in Tampa in October of 1988 on charges of laundering drug money for Colombian cocaine bosses. The BCCI men were convicted, and the bank itself pleaded guilty. But for some reason, the bank was allowed to continue to operate all over the world.
There are indications that some of the reluctance to prosecute this bank stemmed from the favors it did. For the favors it did for intelligence services everywhere.
Intelligence services everywhere. And what kind of favors are those? Well, they're often drug running.
Too many secrets of too many countries, too many prominent people, too many hands-on, and that makes it desirable that this entire affair be forgotten.
It began to become clear that the global traffic of drugs were funding violent dictators, rigging elections, supporting the arms trade, and enforcing the assassination of anyone who got in the way. Casolaro was found dead for his efforts in exposing this network. His death, of course, ruled a suicide.
Oh, yeah.
He was meeting a source in West Virginia. He was about to discover all. Instead, his body was discovered in a hotel room with 12 slashes in his wrist, but when the local authorities ruled...
12 slashes. Because the person ready to commit suicide who's investigating an elitist group of drug runners, terrorist supporters, and intelligence agencies, it's going to take him 12 times to take his own life with those slashes in his wrist. Give me a break.
Ruled it suicide, the family said no way. The housekeeper had taken calls threatening his life.
And I pick it up telephone, I say hello, and he say to me, "You son of a bitch, you's dead."
Casolaro would not be the only person involved in the scandal to wind up in a casket.
So now we're about to get into Barry Seal. And again, Daniel Hopsicker, who I showed you that docket tweet from, he did great work with Barry and the boys. This is the movie that Tom Cruise did. There was a lot of embellishment there. I did a piece on that over at We Are Change. You can go check it. It's a fact and fiction. JKT, thank you so much for the super chat. Let's continue with this South American drug network. Remember, Barry Seal also connected to the CIA and who? Pablo Escobar.
Meet Barry Seal. At first, the media portrayed Seal as a drug dealer gone good, who was assassinated by the Colombian mafia.
Authorities believe last night's machine gun killing of top drug informant Barry Seal was ordered by drug bosses in Medellin, Colombia, who sent 5 men to Baton Rouge to kill Seal.
Sam Dalton was the lawyer that represented the Colombian hitmen convicted of his assassination. We were trying to subpoena the CIA because we felt like they had documents, exhibits, and evidence that would indicate complicity in Seal's assassination. When they were able to gain access of Barry Seal's trunk the night of the murder, the personal phone number of none other than George H.W. Bush was present. Louis Unglesby, the former attorney for Mr. Seal, also confirms that he once called the office of the vice president after Seal had given him the number. You see, the Black Ops drug smuggling operation had not yet been exposed, and intelligence couldn't take any chances. It was later revealed that Seal was involved in smuggling cocaine into Mena, Arkansas, while Bill Clinton sat as governor.
1983, Ronald Reagan was president, Bill Clinton was governor.
Let's stop it there. And remember, while Reagan was president, George H.W. Bush had just come off being the head of the CIA. He was heavily connected to the Contra network. And, you know, Judicial Watch, I'm just going to show you this. Judicial Watch right now is suing for the Mena documents and how this all went down. So let's see. I believe this is it. Yes. On Mena, Arkansas, airport drugs and arms smuggling allegations. Yeah, can we finally see that Inspector General report? We do it live here sometimes, guys. We're going to go back to the film because, again, this network isn't about right or left. You notice Bill Clinton, Democrat. George H.W. and then his son W. Bush, Republican. What do they have in common? They're part of that network that uses banking, the banksters, to deal drugs and arms in black operations. And if you think that any top-level people are going to jail on this J.P. Morgan bust, where they already arrested 6 crew members and said they had 5 kilos when they found well over 15,000 kilos, you got another thing coming. We're going to go back to this in a second, but I got a super chat from, what's the name here? Fun Lovin' B. Hey, JB, happy Sunday. Hope you are well. And great topic for a Sunday lunchtime view. Well, thank you, man. I think it's an important topic, especially now that
Mena, Arkansas,
especially now that that boat is on its way to the Netherlands and completely cleared.
Changed from a quiet town to a center for drug smuggling and reported Contra support activity.
Oh.
In the middle of it all, this man, admitted dope smuggler Barry Seal.
Arkansas State Trooper Russell Welch investigated Seal's organization.
Each trip would have 250 to 350 pounds of cocaine.
According to the London Telegraph, Arkansas State Trooper Larry Patterson testified under oath that he and his officers discussed repeatedly in Clinton's presence the large quantities of drugs being flown into Mena Airport, large quantities of money, large quantities of guns. Hot Springs police officers would also record Roger Clinton, Bill's brother, during a cocaine transaction stating, "Gotta get some for my brother. He's got a nose like a vacuum cleaner." There was also a large amount of money laundering going on in Mena.
Oh!
Former IRS agent William Duncan traced some of Seal's drug profits laundered through Mena banks.
We had direct testimony from people who were involved in the money laundering operation. We had testimony from people at banks who observed the transactions.
Well, surely people went to jail because you had a grand jury, right? I mean, someone went to jail, right? The banks.
What happened when you tried to make this case before a grand jury?
I was never asked to present the evidence to a grand jury, ever.
Oh!
This very same network used BCCI to fund the Afghani rebels.
The deputy director of the CIA, Richard Kerr, said late today that the CIA did use the Bank of Credit and Commerce International, BCCI, to support CIA activities overseas.
Oh.
Most people still believe that the Soviets had maliciously invaded Afghanistan in order to spread their communist agenda.
Nope.
The Al-Qaeda was essentially a kind of a byproduct of Brzezinski's campaign to embarrass the Soviet Union in Afghanistan. They weren't in Afghanistan at that time. Brzezinski boasted later that he was responsible for drawing them into Afghanistan. And he did this extraordinary interview with Le Nouvel Observateur in France, and they said, "But aren't you worried that you've created this whole new force of Al-Qaeda?" And he said, "Oh, what's more important, a few crazed Islamists or the fall of the Berlin Wall?" And they said, "But you know, is there no danger?"
I think we can end it there. We all know what happened, and we go in there. So listen, guys, that whole film, that's free right here. That's free right here. If you go into my playlist, all my documentaries are free along with everything else. So again, I want to point out that the CIA involved in that network, involved in banking. We already have billionaire connections. This couple right here. We have more J.P. Morgan connections as the entire ship owned, not just, the freight. And it's already on its way out to the Netherlands. And like I said, this network is a long-time network. And we're talking about arms dealing. We're talking about drug dealing. Okay, you look at Epstein, and now that you have Vicky Ward talking about Khashoggi, is that connected? I would say more than likely. So guys, if you like this video, please thumbs it up, share it out there. You can watch 3, 4, 5, 6, sometimes 7 times a day. We cover all sorts of topics here, from the latest on Seth Rich, Seymour Hersh, obviously Epstein. We're going to do an Epstein update later. I'm actually going to do a couple throwback videos, hopefully, on some subjects that have kind of been pushed to the side, but I feel like we have to revisit. So thumbs this up, share it. If you're new to the channel, if you liked what you just saw, please subscribe, join the Burmese Brigade. And remember, I'm doing this on my own, so I got to GoFundMe. We're doing it every single month, and that's how I'm pumping these videos out 7 days a week. Once again, I thank you guys so much for joining me, and I will see everybody out there on the flip side.